and I am just the NACCW Deputy Chairperson, and I'm here to do a welcome this morning. So a very warm welcome to everyone as we extend a warm welcome to you to join our NACCW webinar. We'd like to confirm that this is one of a series of webinars that we have been sharing with you as a sector. And for 2024, there's been various webinars that have been hosted with the intention of promoting excellence in the child and youth care sector and in our practice. So we always reflect on our child and youth care work profession as one of the most unique professions that we have, because it brings together many different multidimensional professionals coming together to work in terms of providing the best possible care for the children that we serve. And with that said, we are fully aware of many challenges in the sector as well. And one of the most common things that comes across is the concern that many people in the sector muddle up and mix up exactly what the roles are between the statutory bodies, between the actual trade unions, and between the professional associations. So this morning, we've come together to bring this webinar to you to be able to provide much better clarity on everything that we offer. And in terms of hearing from our presenters today, we will be able to understand and get better clarity. So I have the special honor of welcoming everybody. Start by welcoming our two main guest speakers who are with us today. And they are from the South African Council for Social Service Practitioners, SACSSP. Firstly, we'd like to welcome Mr. Sekhitla, especially for giving us the time and not being the first time on a webinar with us, but for joining us and partnering with us as council, our registrar, and making time to be with us today to share his presentation on exactly what council's role is. And then secondly, we have a representative. We must emphasize that various other unions were invited as well. So we have today, especially trade union NEHAWU with us. And we have a special welcome to extend to Mr. Sdumo Masilela. Welcome to both of you as our main guests for this morning. And we thank you for being with us and for providing us more input on the actual roles that you perform. Thereafter, we also have other speaker. Obviously, we do know NACCW chair, but for me, just to say a very warm welcome to everyone. I extend a welcome to our Provincial Executive Committee on behalf of our National Executive Committee, our NACCW child and youth care workers, members, our colleagues, our friends, and associates across the board. I understand we have some other delegates from other countries like Zambia joining us this morning. So welcome to everybody. We hope you are comfortable and that you make the time to take in everything that is said this morning, and keep your questions and all your queries together so that during the question and answer time you can share that. But we look forward to a wonderful engagement with everybody on this particular topic, where we help all of you to understand better the roles that all the different role players perform, and especially to understand exactly what their mandates are, so that it helps us in terms of planning the work that we do in the sector better. So once again, welcome to everyone on behalf of our National Executive Committee. We look forward to positive engagements, and I hand over to Mr. Donald Ngomnyama. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and welcome to everyone who was able to join this webinar this morning. And of course, you have already shared a special welcome to our guests and everyone who joined, child and youth care workers and other social service practitioners. And my role is to introduce the three speakers who will be sharing the different organizations and the roles and responsibilities that they serve in the sector. And I am going to be brief As you can imagine, the three people have got very long CVs, and I'll just summarize what they have shared with us. Starting with Mr. Hitler Sekhitla, and many of us know him as Hitler, and he is the Registrar of Council, and he is a social worker by profession. He had served at NEHAWU, and but before that he worked for the Suid-Afrikaanse Vroue Federasie, the SAVF, in Gauteng. He also served as a part-time CCMA commissioner and the national organizer for social development sector when he was with NEHAWU. So that is Mr. Sekhitla. Many of us know him. He is responsible for the registration of the child and youth care workers and social workers at council. He is the head of council. So, and also, I would also like to mention that Mr. Sekhitla also, in addition to the social work degree that he holds from University of Pretoria, he has got an advanced certificate in labor law and certificate in human resource management and financial management from UNISA, and has obtained his law degree from UNISA in 2023. So I think that just indicates to us that he is the right person to be leading our council. And he also served in the HWCTA board for some 7 years or so. And he had been involved in other activities within the sector as well, including being the negotiator in the PHSD-SBC and the PSCBC. So that is in brief about Mr. Sekhitla, who is going to be speaking to us this morning. Secondly, we have got Mr. Sdumo Masilela, and I am going to also be brief with his CV because it's quite a long CV. He is a social worker by profession as well, from University of South. He has got an honors degree and Bachelor of Arts in Development Studies from University of South Africa. He also has a BTech in Public Management, a postgraduate diploma Public Affairs from the Tshwane University of Technology. He has worked as a social worker at Mbuzini branch office in Mpumalanga, and he was appointed an acting social work supervisor for some 3 years. He also was appointed as an assistant director responsible for monitoring and evaluation. Mr. Masilela is from National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union, known as NEHAWU. I'm sure that many of us know about NEHAWU and their work. As indicated by the previous speaker, we also invited other trade unions. Unfortunately, they were not able to make this day and time. So we appreciate that NEHAWU was able to join us. Mr. Masilela also serves in the South African Council for Social Services Professions. He, as a council member, and in addition, as chairperson of the Human Resource and Remuneration Committee, Communication and Public Relations Committee, and Committee for Preliminary Inquiry Appeals Committee. So that is in short about Mr. Masilela. And I am also going to share briefly about the third speaker, the chairperson of the NACCW that we all know. If you allow me just a moment. Mr. Elwin Gallant is also a social worker, and he studied at the University of the Western Cape, where he completed his social work BA degree. He has got a master's degree as well from the University of Port Elizabeth, and he is also a qualified and registered child and youth care worker with a national diploma in child and youth care work from Technikon SA. And he was employed as a social worker with Social Development Department in Port Elizabeth. But before then, he was an area manager with Child Welfare South Africa, principal of the Eastern Province Child and Youth Care Center, residential social worker at Erica House Place of Safety. He also serves as a superintendent or manager at Outeniqua House in George, and control youth officer at the Department of Sports, Art and Culture. His experience with young people took him through various learning opportunities. He attended various leadership seminars of the NACCW, as well as facilitation. He attended conferences, and he has got vast experience in the field of child and youth care work. And he currently serves as the chairperson of the NACCW. So in brief, Deputy Chairperson, those are the three speakers that we have this morning. Just to also say that Fiona, our Deputy Chairperson, might be having some connectivity challenges. So now and then I will step in if she is not accessible. Thank you.
So thank you, Donald, for that explanation, and also for briefly introducing all our speakers for this morning. We're now going to hand over to Mr. Sekhitla, who's going to take over for the first presentation. Thank you for joining us, sir, and we welcome you again and hand over to you.
Thanks, Fiona, Program Director, and Mr. Ngonyama, Co-Program Director, colleagues and comrades. I greet you all. Can I confirm that you can see the presentation, Program Director?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Thanks. Let me try to do the slideshow. It becomes very much better. Thanks very much for the warm welcome and introduction, Mr. Ngonyama, the chairperson of the Professional Board for Social Work as well. So we regard you as the #1 child and youth care worker in the country, in another language that we use. Thanks very much for the welcome. Firstly, I would like to appreciate and commend the NACCW for organizing these regular webinars, and this is not the first one that I've attended this year. We really appreciate your hard work as the NACCW, because the work that you do is in line with our objective to ensure that we make CPD continue professional development fashionable and popular amongst our social service professionals, so that we ensure that our social service professionals remain updated and in line with the developments as far as their performance of their professional duties are concerned. And secondly, to also commend you for the interesting topic that you've chose for this webinar. Is close to my heart. Some of us, we had the privilege to be professionals, also to join professionals associations, also to work and join the trade unions, and also as registrants. So I had a bit of a taste in terms of how do professional associations work, regulatory bodies now, which is the SACSSP, for example, and also the trade union movement. So we really appreciate you for the choice of the topic today, and looking forward to the presentations from Mr. Masilela or Comrade Masilela for today, Chairperson, and also to the National Chairperson, Mr. Gallant. Our presentation will focus on the following, which is the brief history of the SACSSP, our mandate, the mandate of professional boards, why professional registrations, because everywhere we go, social service professionals ask, why must we register with the SACSSP? And at the end, we'll focus on the differences between a regulatory body, a professional association, and a trade union. So we've identified 16 themes which can assist us to unpack this particular topic. Now, the SACSSP, it is a statutory body established in terms of Section 2 of the Social Service Professions Act. So we are a juristic person, which we are independent from any organization, and we can determine our programs. So it was around 1942, we are informed that a group of social workers addressed the authorities there, demanding for the establishment of professional control. So basically they wanted the profession of social work to be regulated. And fast forward 1978, the Social and Associated Workers Act 110 of 1978 was assented and published accordingly on the 30th of June 1978, and it came into operation in September 1978. Now, the inception of the Statutory Council for the Profession of Social Work, which was called then Council for Social and Associated Workers, took place in 1980. So basically, the regulation of the profession of social work started around 1980. And in 1989, the Act was amended and the Council's name changed to the South African Council for Social Work. And fast forward 1998, the Social Work Amendment Act kicked in, 102 of 1998, and it brought about the changes in many parts of the 1978 Act, and amongst others, it changed the name of the Act to the Social Service Professions Act. So you can see where does the name Social Service Professions Act comes from. It comes from the Social and Associated Workers Act 110 of 1978. So we're still working on the old legislation, and that official name change took place in 1999, which is where the first South African Council for Social Service Professions was constituted on the 8th of June 1999, which this year, on the 8th of June, the SACSSP has turned 25 years old. We are busy with the preparations for the celebration of this milestone on the 8th of November. Some might have received the invitation, some not, and because of the limited space at the venue. However, all of us should celebrate this milestone. And so in 1992, there was a process which allowed the establishment of professional boards. And currently we have two professional boards, the one for social work and the one for child and youth care workers. And in terms of the regulations for registrations of child and youth care workers, they came into place in 2014. That's why we're having the professional board for social work, and that is where we work closely with organizations like the NACCW, in short, ensuring that we implement the mandate of the council as far as this professional board is concerned. Our mandate is provided for in Section 3 of the Act, and includes but not limited to protection and promotion of the interest of the professions. We determine on the recommendations of the professional board the qualifications for registration for persons practicing the professions. Basically, the professional board for child and youth care work, it is the one that is responsible for agitating the minimum requirements for registrations of child and youth care workers and make recommendation to council for approval. Further to that, we regulate the practicing of the professions, the registration of SSPs, and the persons practicing these professions. We also responsible for determining the standards of professional conduct, which is the code of ethics, and also exercise effective control over their professional conduct. So basically, we set the minimum standards of professional conduct, and in the event that a professional conduct is below the set standards, we regard that person as having contravened the rules which talks to acts or omission, and that is where normally investigation will ensue for that particular professional to be held accountable. We are responsible for assisting in the promotion of social services to the population of the Republic of South Africa, and also advise the minister in relation to any matter affecting the professions in which professional boards have been established. And the last two bullets, basically this is where the advocacy role of the SACSSP comes in. Unfortunately, we don't have the power or the authority to hold employers accountable, but we can only play the advocacy role through the minister's office and engage on issues which are affecting the professions and the professionals. In this case, we're talking about child and youth care workers. The mandate of the professional boards is provided for in Section 14, capital letter B of the Social Service Professions Act, and the responsibility of the board or the mandate thereof, the exercise control and authority in respect of training and practice of the professions. They determine the minimum standard for education and training, which I spoke to earlier on, and they also maintain and enhance the dignity, integrity of the profession falling within its ambit, and guide the professions falling within its ambit in order to protect the public. And to read more on the general powers of the professional boards, please refer to Section 14, capital letter C of the Social Service Professions Act. So basically the essence here of a professional board and a council, the essence is to protect the public, that the must firstly, members of the public should receive quality social services, and in the event social service professionals are not acting accordingly, they should be held accountable. Why professional registrations? As I've indicated earlier on, where everywhere we go across the country, we receive this particular question where social service professionals in the main asking us, the others will even say, no, the council is useless, why must we continue registering it? And part of the discussion today is to clarify the mandate of council, how it differentiates between, or how is it different from a trade union and also from a professional association. It is a legal requirement that any person who wants to regard him or herself as a child and youth care worker and practice as such, they must be registered. And in the event that you are not registered, but you regard yourself as a professional, either a social worker or a child and youth care worker, you will be contravening Section 15 of the Social Service Professions Act. And council has or a client whom you misrepresented yourself has the right to open a criminal case against that particular person who's making misrepresentation. It is a license for one to practice. Without registrations, you are not allowed to practice. We are aware that there are various laws which empower or recognize the social service professionals to execute certain statutory tasks, in particular the removal of a child in need of care and protection. We know who the Children's Act refers to as the person who may remove a child who's in need of care and protection. By registering with a statutory body, in this case the SACSSP, it serves as a proof that you meet the minimum requirements for registration and you are competent to practice. And further to that, the reason why you must be registered is because we must protect the public against unethical conduct, because we can only hold you accountable if you are a registrant. If you are not a registrant, we can't hold you accountable. The only avenue that we have as the members of the public and a council is to open a criminal case against that particular person who's practicing while not registered. You can use your registration with the SACSSP to market yourself and also use it for international recognition. By registering or having a statutory body to ensure that those who practice are registered, it gives professional credibility and credence to our profession, and in this case, the profession of child and youth care work. You will also be recognized and respected in the multidisciplinary teams. We know all of us as social service professionals who are providing direct social services, we do participate in multidisciplinary teams. And I always say to colleagues that when you enter, you introduce yourself that I'm a registered child and care worker or social worker, Hitler, and so forth. People will automatically respect you, but they will start losing respect as and when they see the manner that you're conducting yourself in the meeting. So as a professional, automatically get respect, but your conduct as and when you interact with other colleagues and other professionals and you interact with members of the public who are clients will determine as to whether they must continue respecting you or giving you the respect that each and every professional deserves. Now, here is the categorization of the difference between a regulatory body, a professional association, and a trade union. So you will see the second column there. We identified the team. This is the article. This information comes from an article when we're doing the research, which we will share with the coordinator so that it can be distributed amongst the delegates. So it is not our original thinking, colleagues. I must make it clear so that we don't take ownership of the work that is not ours, but we found this article relevant for this particular template or table relevant to this particular topic. The first thing there talks about the primary purpose of what is the primary purpose of a regulatory board is to protect the public. And the responsibility or primary purpose of a professional associations like the NACCW is to advance the professions and the professionals, and the trade unions, their mandate is to advocate for their members. And the organizational nomenclature, we normally use the word council. In South Africa, we use the word council and professional board. So others, they call it a statutory board. Now, in terms of professional associations, others, they call it an association, a body, a college, a guild, and society, and so forth. And the trade union, they call them unions, organized labor, and so forth. So that's how they categorize themselves in terms of the identity and the names and the membership status thereof. The membership for a statutory board is mandatory. So you don't wish whether you don't have the right to choose whether you want to register with council or not. The minute you want to be recognized as a social service professional, you must be registered. And members of a professional association will have a choice whether to join or not to become a member of a particular professional association. The same applies to membership of a trade union. Is also voluntarily. The minute you are an employee or a worker at a particular workplace, you have the choice whether to form or join a trade union which is already existing in that particular workplace or organize yourself in a particular way. The principle here is that in terms of the trade unions, the Labor Relations Act makes provision for trade unions to be established. So it's up to workers and members of the public to organize themselves in that particular fashion. The same applies to professional association. There's no any legislation that there must be a professional association, but they are always encouraged on the basis that they play a critical role in terms of also overseeing the work that council is doing and what the employers are doing and what government is doing in terms of the interest of a particular profession that they represent. So basically, professional association, amongst others, they are there to make noise in terms of when things are not right, to make noise to say, but the manner that we are doing things, council, as far as the interest of our members is concerned, we don't think it's the right way. We believe this is the proposal that we are putting forward. The same applies when government is ignoring our issues as professionals. The question which I always ask is, where are our professional association within the social service sector? But I leave it there. That question will answer it ourselves as social service professionals. Then individual designation, we talk about a registrant. As a statutory body and professional association and trade unions, we don't normally talk about a member in good standing. And we talk about a registrant, about a person who's fit and proper to can practice a particular profession. Then the coverage all of those authorized to practice and use their protected title. So firstly, you must be in possession of the minimum required qualification before you can be registered with the SACSSP or any statutory board. In terms of professional association principal, those affiliated with the association but who often seek to speak for the profession as a whole. And in terms of the trade union, they speak on behalf of their members who are affiliated to that specific union. Then cultural alignment. We are impartial and evidentiary approach empowered by legal and societal mandate. So we do not act out of our will. Our work is guided by the rules and the regulations which are made in terms of Section 27 and Section 28 of the Social Service Professions Act. Then our understanding of a professional association is that it advocates and promotes the profession. And the mandate of the trade union, our understanding is that it represents and defends members. Then the rights and responsibilities, regulatory body, our primary responsibility there is to protect the public. And professional associations, we understand them to be broadly based and self-determined. So they determine their programs in terms of what they want to achieve. And further to that, in terms of trade unions, we understand them to be taking responsibility in terms of labor issues and employment matters. Typical activities, we set the minimum standards of education, registration, practice, and professional conduct, and we enforce the rules and the regulations. The professional association, they advocate for the profession, set aspirational standards, and offer advanced credentials to their members. And trade unions, they negotiate the terms and conditions of employment on behalf of their members and protect their members in terms of disciplinary inquiries and also grievances, and also deals with the matters of bread and butter, which is collective bargaining. Principal policy focus, we are a regulatory board. We are guided by the Act, the rules and the regulations. And the professional associations, we believe that they are guided by professional and social service policy. So they are responsible to agitate social service policy within the social service sector. And trade unions, they focus on labor policy matters. The source of power, where do we generate our power? We use the Social Service Professions Act as I've indicated, and also the rules and regulations. So if anything that we do as a statutory board, we are guided by the rules and the regulations. So we cannot just wake up today and go and investigate a particular employer who's employing child and youth care workers. We don't have the mandate to do that, because one of the questions that colleagues ask within the sector is that council is failing us. Our working conditions are so terrible that we cannot focus on our mandate. What is council doing? We are being exploited, we are being underpaid and so forth, and what council is doing. The unfortunate part, colleagues, in relation to this particular matter, it is not the primary responsibility of a statutory board. Those are the matters that must be advanced by workers through their trade unions, or trade unions through their memberships. So that is the responsibility of trade unions. So if you are working in terrible working conditions, the first people who must deal with that particular matter and raise the noise and demand for better or improved working conditions is the trade unions, not a regulatory board. So that's part of the differences, colleagues, because normal people say, but we are paying council, what are you doing? The money that we receive in form of registration fees and annual fees, we use it to set the minimum standard of education, registration, practice, and professional conduct, and nothing beyond that. The advocacy role that we play is on an ad hoc basis when we see certain issues which are affecting the professional, but basically it's not our primary responsibility to take employers on. We don't have that authority. Even if we can take them to court and so forth, the judge will just tell us, show us in terms of your Social Service Professions Act that says you can take employers on. So trade unions and professional association, that is your space that you need to play a critical role there. Political partisanship. We are non-partisan. We are not affiliated to any political party or supposed to affiliate to any political party or advance the interest of any political party. Professional associations, it depends on the constitution of that particular professional associations. And trade unions, we know in South Africa there are those political, trade unions that are affiliated, or they are trade union trademark. Basically, some of them are born out of political activities, in particular those from COSATU, FEDUSA, and so forth. So they do have some political alignment or relationship there, and that is also depending on their constitution. There are those trade unions whom they are concerned they do not make provision for affiliation to any political party, and so or relationship with any political party. Methods of advocacy. Ours is often indirect, as I've indicated, or alternatively through formal consultative processes, and that mandate is limited, as I've indicated. And professional association, most direct, broadly based advocacy, and they use a wide range of mobilization techniques, and the NACCW will be in a better position to really unpack this particular method of advocacy. Mostly direct, focus on benefits, workers' rights, conditions of service, uses a wide range of mobilization techniques, and also include embarking on lawful industrial action when they withdraw their labor to say, employer, if you do not listen to us, we are going to withdraw our labor until you accede to our demands. The board composition, with council, is twofold. There are members of council and members of the professional board who are elected, and there are those who are appointed. The election that are conducted by us, coordinated by us, and all social service professionals are expected to participate in the nominations and the elections. And the second category of composition of a council or a professional board comes from those that have been appointed by the Minister of Social Development. And in terms of professional associations, in the main, they do the election of the leadership thereof, but there are those ones that they appoint the leadership of that particular professional association. And in terms of trade unions, you know, they do the elections from branch level until national level. They do the elections, and the appointment is in relation to the staff who are supposed to service the members of that particular trade union. And in terms of accountability, we account to the public through Parliament, in particular the Portfolio Committee of Social Development. So we are expected to report and submit reports. And the act is clear in terms of how we're supposed to handle, for example, audited financial statements. So every year we are expected to submit the audited financial statement to the Minister of Social Development. And currently we are introducing a process where we supposed to submit our quarterly reports to the Minister of Social Development. And professional association, we understand that they account their members, and also the same applies to trade unions. The process of continued professional development, what is the purpose thereof? Ours is to ensure that practitioners or professionals remain competent, if I were to put that way, so that they continue providing quality services to our people. And in terms of professional association, we understand them to be doing continued professional development for career progression, and also for professional development of their members. And also trade union, they're also responsible to ensure that the members benefit thereof. And I can assure, I'm one of those people who benefited out of the trainings that the trade unions do offer, or take their members and their officials, or what we call organizers too. So when I used to work for that particular union, they used to take us for those particular trainings, and I remain indebted to that particular trade union, and because they do good work. And I believe all the trade unions within the social service sector, they are doing good work in terms of producing cadres that can be be fit for any task that they can be given to work on. And lastly, continued professional development, the role thereof to validate participation as far as approved CPD training activities are concerned, and we ensure as our responsibility to ensure that registrants, they meet the requirements to continue practicing and as what we call fit and proper persons. And in terms of professional associations, provide learning content, opportunities, and offers accreditation of learning. And lastly, in terms of trade unions, they provide learning content and opportunities. And as I've indicated, I'm one of those beneficiaries from both the professional association work in terms of the learning content and opportunities they offer, and also from the trade unions. Thanks very much, Program Director.
Thank you so much to our registrar, Mr. Sekhitla, for the wonderful presentation. I think you've covered so much of information in this short presentation, and it's been such a thorough presentation and aptly captured. So highlighting, of course, that the Council's role is to protect and to promote the interests of all the recipients, especially regulating our practice very clearly in terms of the rules and the guidance that you supply to all the social service practitioners. And I think especially determining the qualifications that we should be, the minimum qualifications that we should have in terms of registering, but also focusing on determining the standards of professional conduct that needs to happen in the sector. What I see is clearly coming out of the presentation is the emphasis on protection, the word protection, and the fact that you're protecting, priority is to protect the public in terms of the recipients that we are offering services to, and the fact that those recipients should receive the best quality of service coming from us as social service professionals. Also, came out was the big registration with the components of why we should with the council, especially emphasizing the legal requirements and the statutory requirements of all of us in ensuring that we act and are bound by our code of ethics, especially in terms of acting professionally. Related to the actual breakdown that you provided, that was absolutely aptly captured in your presentation on the themes and the mandates of the associated characteristics that you put together. I think it's covered almost all aspects that we need to identify and clearly spelled out exactly how council represents itself as a regulatory body and separating yourself in terms of what happens when we work with a professional association or when we work with the trade union. So I think once again, we just like to thank you for that, because you've actually summarized everything quite clearly into that components of themes and associated characteristics between the three professional organizations and how they function. So once again, thank you to that. Those of you who have again, just keep your questions and we'll take it in the question and answer. So thank you to Mr. Sekhitla for that wonderful presentation. And we're going to now move on to the next presentation. Thank you so much. Our next presentation will be from the trade union as indicated, NEHAWU, and Mr. Masilela will hand over to you. Thank you.
Ms. Fiona, my greetings to the register, Mr. Sekhitla, and I'm not sure, Chair, am I audible?
Yes, you are at the moment.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Yeah, as I was greeting yourself, Program Director, the Registrar, Mr. Sekhitla, and also the Chairperson of the NACCW, Edwin, Mr. Edwin, and also greetings to Mr. Ngonyama, the chairperson of the Child and Youth Care Board. I think I will also try to share my presentation here. I don't know whether, and also greetings to everyone that is present here in this meeting. Particularly the social service professionals. I'm trying to share my presentation here, Chair. I don't know whether I will be able. Let me check here. Oh. Is it appearing that that side, Chair?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Go. Hey, yeah, I'm getting some difficulties here, Chair. I'm not sure whether I can email somebody to assist me that side.
Yes, you can email it to me.
Donald?
I'll flight it for you.
Okay, let me quickly do that now. Share.
So thank you. A reminder to all the colleagues to please keep your questions for our question and answer session, and make any comments and notes that you'd like to also on the chat if you would prefer. We'll just bear with them and give them a few minutes to flag the presentation.
Mr. Ngonyama, there is something in your WhatsApp.
Thank you, colleagues. We'll just give Donald a few minutes to put up the presentation.
I'm still waiting for it to come through.
Perhaps while we're waiting for it to go through to Donald, maybe we can suggest Mr. Masilela, if you'd like to start and continue with your presentation verbally, and once he has it, he'll upload it. Mr. Masilela, just checking. You can unmute and you can continue verbally if you'd like.
Yes, sorry about that, Ms. Fiona. I thought that I'm still unmuted. I said, as I greeted everyone in the meeting, including yourself, Chairperson, or Program Director, the Registrar, the Chairperson of NCCW, and then Mr. Donald, the Chairperson of the Child and Youth Care Board. Then I also greet all those that are in the meeting. I think also there are some social service professionals that are in this meeting. So I'm saying my real name is Sdumo Masilela is my surname. I heard that Mr. Donald or Mr. Ngonyama mistaken me with Sdumo Dlamini. I'm Sdumo Masilela. But I know that it's a common mistake that other comrades are committing. But mine, Chair, will also be to indicate that I also like to appreciate this opportunity created by yourself and your organization for me to come and share my understanding of the differences between the regulatory body, professional association, and trade unions. So some of the key areas, I think Mr. Sekhitla have covered them. So I will try also, Chair, to be quick as possible because I understand that you couldn't give us the time to present, but I will try to locate myself within 5 to 10 minutes. I think I shall be done. But then now, in my introduction, Chair, I indicated that it is very much important and essential for us to comprehend the distinction amongst regulatory body, professional association, and trade union, as each of these organizations serve its unique function in the promotion and regulation of different industries, profession, and the fighting for the rights of workers. Yes, of course, it complements each other. But I summarized the Chair, the regulatory bodies that plays a crucial role in the enforcement of the laws and regulations, the establishment of standards and the assurance of compliance with the designated industries or sectors, because the statutory bodies, you find them in different sectors and different industries that we have. But these statutory bodies, program director, are created by governmental authorities, and these entities or have trusted the statutory bodies to safeguard the public interest and ensuring that various sectors function within the ambit of legislative framework. So it should not be a willy-nilly approach that if a statutory body or a professional association or trade unions feel like it can do whatever it takes, they can then do that. Therefore, it simply suggests that the regulatory body or statutory bodies themselves, they are also regulated themselves as well, as much as they regulate the professional bodies. But I also came up with some few examples, program director, in relations to which are statutory bodies that we know. We know that first we started with the statutory body that regulates the professions under social service professions, because under social service professions we know that there are different professions under it, which I think Mr. Sekhitla have touched them. Of course, we are regulated by the South African Council for Social Service Professionals. Then, but there are other sectors such as health. They are also having their own statutory bodies, such as the Health Professions Council of South Africa, and also they are having South African Nurses Council, South African Pharmacy Council, and you can name them. There are a lot of regulatory body under health. But under professional associations, it is important to indicate that the professional associations are the organizations that individuals can join them voluntarily with the purpose of advancing and enhancing a particular profession. Like Mr. Sekhitla have indicated that with the regulatory bodies, you can't choose. Once you choose that particular profession, you are then bound to fall within that particular regulatory board or statutory board. So with the professional associations, of course, it's a voluntary exercise that you embark on. But this profession, what they do, they establish themselves to benchmark on a particular professional behavior, and of course, training that should be offered to develop the human resource in those particular in that particular profession. And part amongst other things, these professional associations, they also advocate for a high standard of excellence within their designated area of expertise, which I don't think I will dwell much on this, because Dr. Sekhitla have covered some more areas on it. But the examples that I've came up with under professional associations, we are having a lot within the ambit of within the context of South Africa. But if you can want to confine yourself within the context of South African social service professions, the professional associations, which I think also the chairperson of the NACCW will come and cover it, because I think it might have been an aspect of it, which in the main, the one that we have also include the National Association of Social Workers in South Africa. We also have the professional associations of South African Association of Social Workers in private practice. We also have Employee Assistant Professional Association of South Africa. We also have South African Occupational Social Workers Association. So there are a lot, but these are some that I just gave the example of. So they are ensuring that the profession is developing, because the profession of social service must not be static. It must find a way of growing. So in order for that to happen, it therefore needs those who will, or organizations that will nourish it and will ensure that there are relevant trainings, and also update its mandate, and also look at the new developments in those particular profession. So now we are looking at the issue of the trade unions. Like it is indicated earlier on, that there are other trade unions that have been invited to come to this session. So I will try to be generic, and also come closer to the nature and character of NEHAWU. But trade unions are an organization that formed by workers within the primary objective of safeguarding and advancing their rights. They are doing that guided by the Labor Relations Act of the Labor Relations Act number 66 of 1995. Therefore, the unions emphasizes more on collective bargaining and engaging on industrial action to enhance working conditions and secure better benefits and advocate for social justice. So the trade union's responsibility, by and large, is to focus more on the conditions of service of workers. If we want to confine ourselves to be within the parameters of social service professions. So it means that the trade unions are advancing that where they are working, there must be the compliance of basic of Employment Act, and also the occupational health and safety is observed, and also the issues of tools of trade, and all those that can necessitate the working condition to be a proper environment. Like the register has indicated that the council cannot bargain on behalf of workers, particularly when it comes to the issues of salary increase, the issues of benefits, because that is not their mandate, but the unions are sourcing such mandate from its members. So any matter that requires for a bargain or a bargaining, it needs trade unions to do such. But on the other hand, with regard to better benefits, the trade unions are ensuring that there is this thing that is called the skills development levy, wherein employers are expected that in the compensation of employees, or what we normally call COEs, the 10% of, I mean, is it 10% of it? It must be dedicated for skills development of employees. So therefore, it means that on the issue of CBD points, the trade unions also played a vital role in ensuring that they are making employers to budget for employees for a skills development. But the other thing that we also the trade union do is that it involves itself in several key purposes, which includes advocating for workers' rights, and like I indicated, negotiating of better wage salary increase, working conditions, and providing support by also representing the members in various related matters. Like if I can give an example here, when you look at the strategic framework of employee health and wellness program of I think of 2008, it then gives an indication as to say who can refer an employee for a wellness program. But amongst other things, unions are also warranted or authorized by that strategic framework that they can refer their employees for employee health and wellness. The reason of that is precisely because some other cases you will find that an employee have committed an offense because of psychosocial problems. So it therefore means that when the unions are representing workers, they look in different problems that are a cause of those particular offense. Like for example, in the past in the workplace, the issue that was focused on that will lead for an employee to be referred for a wellness program was the area of focus such as substance abuse and absenteeism. So as the field of wellness develops, there is a new phenomenon which is now being researched thoroughly, which is called presenteeism. So it means that the employer can be happy that the employee is presenting itself to the workplace, but only to find that the issue of productivity, it becomes a problem. So as a trade unions, part amongst other things is to ensure that the presence of employees in the workplace must be equally to the work that they can be able to produce. So those are the other things that trade unions do in ensuring that there is a professional development of a different field or different profession. So there are different unions that we have, like Dave mentioned, but also there are unions who are sector specifics. Unions such as SATU, their focus is by and large focusing on teachers union. You have the likes of DENOSA, which their focus is by and large is looking for nurses. So, but ourselves as NEHAWU, we are what we call an industrial union or a sector union. So we are subscribing to the long-standing slogan of COSATU, which also NEHAWU is harboring it. That's an injury to one is an injury to all. That is why Karl Marx, which we think that is a classical author of the class struggle, is saying that workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chain of oppression. So it means that if workers are organizing themselves separate from other workers, it makes them not to have the necessary unity. And as a result of that, workers end up competing about their exploitation. Because you will find a person who's a social auxiliary worker thinking that is exploited worse than a social worker. You will find a child and youth care worker thinking that is exploited worse than a community development practitioner. So this thing of professions to organize themselves through their professions, it makes them to develop what NEHAWU normally call it a false consciousness of thinking that there is a worker that is exploited better than the other worker. All workers are exploited. So what is important is that workers must organize themselves, workers must unify themselves so that they will have a common goal in fighting against the exploitation that they experience in the workplace. That is why we are saying that NEHAWU subscribe to this notion or this long-standing slogan of COSATU of an injury to one is an injury to all. Because you can't, being a child and youth care worker, seeing your colleague suffering in the workplace and you fold your arms and say, no, he or she does not belong to my profession, or I have less to say in that particular profession. So that thing itself, it makes us to compete through our exploitation. So we encourage that workers must unite so that they will have a solid and a united voice against the exploitation that they might encounter in the workplace. Because all of us, I think we are social workers here, we are child and youth care workers, we are social auxiliary workers. We know that the workplace is a place of socialization. So it needs workers to have unity, to work together and do more things together in order for them to be able to bargain in a better way. Because majority of a particular union facilitates power. So a union cannot be in majority in the workplace or in a sector if it organizes only a specific profession. So the nature and character of NEHAWU in the main is that NEHAWU is a democratic union. It means that it subscribes to the notion of democracy, that majority rules. But also it does not mean that majority should just rule, but it also takes decisions through consensus. So there must be engagements in order for decisions to be taken. So if it comes to a push, if there is a stalemate, therefore the decision must be voted for. But voting is not a starting point. A starting point is the engagement in order to reach a consensus. But the other issue that is the character of NEHAWU is that it is a non-racial and non-sexist organization. It organizes every person who's a worker in the scope wherein it is organizes, regardless of the race and regardless of the sex or gender of that particular person. It is what we call it a worker control. So it means that it promotes participation of its members to advance for their social and economic changes in the workplace and also outside the outside the workplace. That is why it's what we call a transformative union, a radical and a militant union. It's a union that understands that the issues that affect workers does not start and end in the workplace, but the issues that affect the society, it also affect workers. I think I talked to the relevant people who understand how the systems of the social systems operate. Because everyone comes from an institution that we call a family. And beyond the family, you have other external institutions. It can be a workplace, it can be a community where you come from, and so forth and so on. So NEHAWU subscribes to that notion to say we can not only focus or be able to change the lives of workers or the lives of professionals or advance the profession if the social ills that affects the society or the economic problems that affect the society are existing. So that is why then NEHAWU is fighting even for issues that are outside the workplace, because the issues that are outside the workplace are also affecting workers in the workplace. If I can just give an example, recently we have social workers that have suffered from what we call the extortion. I think it's in the Eastern Cape, or if not Western Cape, wherein they are expected to pay what these tax are calling a protection fee. So in the workplace, particularly here in Mpumalanga, NEHAWU have been in the forefront fighting against the safety in the workplace, where in tax are just entering the workplace, torturing workers in those particular workplaces. So we are saying that these problems that we're encountering in the workplace is precisely because it's a mirror. Whatever that we see in the workplace is a mirror of what is happening in the society. So that is why, therefore, NEHAWU promotes what we call patriotism, or building the class consciousness of workers, because South Africa is envisaged to become a developmental state. In order for South Africa to be a developmental state, it therefore means that it must have employees or professionals who are patriotic, who loves the country. Because if the professionals or employees or workers are not patriotic, it will then make a situation to be worse, because when you make an example with nurses, but I think it's also applicable to social service professionals. You will find a nurse, when is working in the public institution, is doing what they call it moonlighting. That during the day is working in a public facility, and during night or when it's off is working in the private hospital. The participation or the performance or the conduct of a nurse or a social service profession when it's in a public service facility is different when it's doing this moonlighting or doing work outside of the public entity. So NEHAWU is promoting that its members and professionals and employees and workers, they must love their country in order for them to provide service to those who are vulnerable. In my conclusion, program director, I want to indicate that regulatory bodies indeed enforces law and regulations. Then a professional association promote excellence and standards in the profession. Then trade union protects and promote workers' rights and their interest. Therefore, as a result of that, it is important of professionals to understand the different roles that is played by these three categories or layers of statutory bodies and professional association and trade union. But it also important that the three in a way are different, but on the other hand, they are advancing for a common cause. Because when you look at the statutory body, when you look at the professional association, they are promoting the growth of the profession. So as trade unions, they are fighting for skills development. In a way, they are contributing for the profession to develop. But also, the interest of the professionals are not divorced from their personal interest and also their social interest and also their economic interest. So it means that it is very much important of professionals to understand these symbiotic relations and understand how it is complementing each other or one another. That is why there is no profession that can grow if it does not have statutory body and if it does not have professional associations that advance for those particular profession. But if it is also, there is no unions that advance the working conditions of those professionals or of those particular employees in order for them to be conducive. So in order for social service professions to be to grow, it requires the professions to unite themselves and advocate for their profession, because trade unions are a vehicle or a tool that social service professionals can use to fight for their better working conditions. Because there is no angel that can descend from heaven and say, here I am Zebediah. I have been sent to fight for your issues as social service professions. So it requires social service professions to join hands, because social service professions are people who understand social actions possibly better than any other professions. So it can't be correct that you have social service professions that will solely rely on others to pursue and fight for their issues without them fighting for their issues. Thank you very much, Program Director. That is why I say amandla awethu amandla. Long live the unity of social service professions. Long live. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masilela. I think you provided quite a comprehensive presentation as well. I'm sure you'll share it with Donald so he can share it with everyone. We missed the actual PowerPoint presentation. But just to sum up, I think you've covered quite a lot in emphasizing again that clearly demarcating regulatory role of the council, clearly demarcating the fact that professional associations have a different role in terms of promoting excellence, but highlighting especially the trade union roles. And some of the key things you brought out is just, standing out the fact that the main role of unions is to promote and to safeguard and advocate for the rights of our workers in the field. Also to make sure that they're also regulated and governed as a trade union so that they comply with the rules and law as well. But also emphasizing that we have to understand the dynamics of a union where you also work with the health sector and welfare sector. So you're covering two different aspects and two different professionals. And that there's a lot of different professional associations that you work with, which I didn't realize it's that many until you were mentioning them as well. So a lot of professional associations to bring in as stakeholders, besides working with professional with the council. Also emphasizing as a union that one of the key things is to look at the good working conditions for employees and making sure that that's advanced within the sector. And bargaining, a lot of bargaining, the word bargaining came out quite a bit in your presentation around salaries. Yes, we are one of the poorly paid sectors. Child and youth care sector is still a very growing sector in the field, but that's always a concern that we're not meeting the needs that we should in terms of paying the staff that we have. So that's a common concern amongst the sector. But emphasizing again that your role is also to look at employers and how they are enforcing the rules and the laws that they are supposed to, like promoting the skills development levy and making sure that there's wellness programs for employees. So you've covered quite a bit about what the mandate of the union is. And I think the fact that the emphasis is on the reality that the union should be there to support the employees, support them in various different ways, but also clearly emphasizing the fact that we need to be strong in terms of our unity, in terms of the voice that we portray when we want to advocate for our rights as workers. I think that's a common concern in the sector, is that we don't stand up together as one voice to fight for our rights. Yes, we do fight for the rights of our recipients, but like you say, we don't always fight for the rights of ourselves as workers, which is a key component to wanting to advance ourselves in the professional sector. So thank you so much for that presentation. It's been very, very enlightening. And any comments and any questions for specifically the union, you can also hold that for the question and answer session. We're now going to move on the agenda to our national chairperson for NACCW, Mr. Gallant, who is going to take us through about professional associations and particularly NACCW. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Program Director, all child and youth care workers, and our social service professionals who have joined our webinar today, our members of the National Executive Committee of the NACCW, our directors and staff of NSW that are here to support, and then also our fellow presenters, Mr. Sekhitla, the Registrar of the South African Council of Social Service Professions, and Mr. Sdumo Masilela from the NEHAWU Trade Union. Thank you very much for this opportunity that we can share today and speak about how these three structures, the regulatory body, the trade union, and the professional association support and work together for the common good. I will then, in my presentation, just briefly share with you what the professional association is all about, and also just briefly what the NACCW as a professional association is involved with and doing in the field. The fellow presenters has already touched on, and differentiate what these structures are doing. And I want to say thank you to our registrar. He's put up that metrics there for us to share for us the characteristics of the statutory body or the regulatory body, the professional association and the trade union. And I think he has set the baseline because he has given us broadly what is the differences there. And also thank you to Mr. Masilela there for expressing also his support for these structures. Especially, I'm very grateful that he has elaborated much more for us on the role of advocacy that we should have as professional associations and the standard of what he called excellence as professional associations. So I would then just briefly go and share with you a background of a professional association. Randy, we could just move on. The first slide, we want to say that our understanding of a professional association is that it represents a collection of professionals who work towards a common goal of promoting and improving the profession they are associated with. So our professional associations are designed with a purpose to enhance the image and standing of that profession. So it's like-minded people that come together and say, this is what our profession is all about. And therefore, the professional association is membership-owned and should have structures that support its programs. And therefore, the professional association are not regulated in terms of specific laws, as been mentioned there, the South African, the Social Service Professions Act for the council, and the Labour Relations Act that regulates also trade unions. We are guided because we membership and we come together as a group and associate with each other. In terms as a voluntary association, and we are guided by a constitution. The NACCW, we were founded in 1975, and we are the only professional association for child and youth care workers here in South Africa. So we have our structures, NACCW structures, in our various provinces and elected by the members. Unlike a statutory body, the joining of a professional association is voluntary, but you must pay your membership fee because that is what builds and keeps the organization, because there's also all those organization and operational expenses that needs to be attended to. The main goal of a professional association, if we could move. What are the goals of professional associations? And that is to advance and promote the profession. Okay. To create that platform for members to deliberate on profession-specific matters and agree on a common objective. The members participate in decision-making by government, tertiary institutions, and other bodies representing the profession. So if government have policies or plans that they want to develop, professional associations also participate and give input. The same with the tertiary institutions in terms of training and any other body that want to be associated with this specific profession. It represents the sector in setting aspirational standards, and it also keeps checks and balances on the developments of the profession led by tertiary institutions and government. If we continue then with the goal of professional associations, the professional association must be the guardians, the watchdogs of their profession. And they must keep an eye on who enters the profession and their practice. So it's important that when we come together in our workplace, we need to know who is this person. And we've seen in our country that there are a lot of fake professionals that come and try and practice. And we need to make sure that we attend to it and act upon it as professionals. We influence and provide input to policy making, as I've mentioned before. And we also provide structures and governance to the profession. We support the enforcement of ethical practice and development of relevant sanctions to be applied when provisions are substandard. And therefore, a professional association works in conjunction with your regulatory body to ensure that those ethical standards are there and to influence what should be in the guidelines for ethical conduct. And we also make sure, because the profession is for the benefit of the professionals, but also to serve those beneficiaries that we work with. And lastly, I'd like to mention the other goal of a professional association is the advancement of professional identity and building cohesion amongst professionals. It's important, child and youth care workers specifically, that we must make sure that people identify you as a child and youth care worker, because people are still stuck in the development. People just say caregivers, and they have all sorts of names for your profession, and therefore you need to stand up and as a collective, we need to say this is what our profession is all about. So I would like to briefly then share with you the NACCW as a professional association. And as shared before, the NACCW is guided by its constitution. And in terms of our constitution, our focus as a profession is on children and young people and their families. And I'm just sharing you what comes from our constitution, the first leg. And then it's also about the professionals, to develop them. So let's briefly see there what it's all about. It's about promotion of healthy development of children and young people, and to improve the standard of care and treatment for orphaned, vulnerable, and at-risk children and young people in families, communities, and residential group care and education settings. It's about to promote the optimum care and development of children and youth, to protect and uphold the rights of all children as stated in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, the South African Constitution, and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. It's to support and encourage efforts to eradicate factors which create or contribute to the hardship and suffering of children and young people and the compromising of children's rights. And so child and youth care workers, as the NECCW, we must make a noise. It's all over in the media. Our children are suffering. There's the issue of food poisoning. This morning was on the news about 6 matriculants there here in the Eastern Cape in one of the villages where they were sexually violated. And so as you belong to this organization, we are there to talk about when children's rights are compromised. We must be there to make a noise and influence it. And as the registrar said, we are there as advocates, and we need to make sure that we say something. We mustn't wait on the national executive. Where in your small corner we should talk and make these things that people know who we are and what it is, because we want to protect children. We want to liaise and cooperate and affiliate with any other bodies, both nationally and internationally. And so the NEHAWU is, as an association, a member of FITSE International, FITSE Africa, and we also FITSE South Africa. Our aims and objectives continues. We work towards and uphold professional standards for both institutions and organizations in the field of child and youth care. So it has to do with the workplace in itself. And then we work towards and uphold professional standards for child and youth care practitioners in respect of their knowledge, their skills, their recognition, material circumstances, and conditions of service. And so it's also to make sure that our professionals are armed. They have the armor on to do their work in a professional manner, the knowledge and the skills, and that they are recognized. And so the NACCW was instrumental in terms of promoting and going to the South African Council of Social Service Professions to say, we are collective. We also need to be regulated so that we can get that recognition. It's a process, and we're still there in this process and struggle to make sure things move on. It is there to disseminate information regarding the whole field of child and youth care, liaise with the media, and to publish journals for the child and youth care profession. We advocate and lobby for the benefit of the child and youth care sector, and we are all over the, and we went to the and engaged at one stage with the portfolio committee together with the professional board for child and youth care and council to go and tell them who we are and how we also contribute to the protection of children and the development in our social services sector. And so that's where our advocacy are. We are all over it. We are talking behind the screens at times for the child and youth care field. We provide training to the child and youth care practitioners, liaise with the relevant bodies for training opportunities and corporations, and create and develop and maintain programs and sustainable models of care and protection. All child and youth care workers are known about the models that we have. Then briefly about our membership. We have 5 categories of membership. If you apply for membership to the association, the first one is associate membership. It's open to all persons who have an interest in the association but are not practicing in the field of child and youth care. Then we have accredited membership. It's open to all our child and youth care workers, and we want them to be registered as defined by the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care. So membership are there. And then we've got honorary membership, may be conferred at the discretion of the National Executive Committee on persons who are regarded by that committee to have an established status in the field of child and youth care and to have substantially contributed to the field. So honorary membership comes with your input and your years of experience. I can mention that I'm an honorary member after 35 years in the association. We've also got corporate membership. It's open to all non-profit organizations. It's registered in terms of the Non-Profit Organizations Act. All institutions or associations which are involved in the field of child and youth care and they have an interest in the association. I need to emphasize to our institutions or organized NPOs, corporate membership does not confer any level of individual membership upon the members or employees of an organization. Okay, so members register individual, and then we have for the organization also that membership. Okay. If we continue then with membership, the membership, NACC membership, are for child and youth care workers from all settings, but it also includes our social service professionals, others that want to be part of the members, as mentioned earlier, as from child and youth care centers, any community-based organizations, the departments, education, justice, health, and where child and youth care workers work. As mentioned, we are a voluntary association. We are a non-profit organization, and therefore the membership fee is paid at this stage. It's 50 Rand per annum. And we would like to encourage people to make sure you pay your membership fees to be a member in good standing. That's why we have membership. Then briefly, just our organizational structure. As you could see, we've said there we are a non-profit organization registered in terms of that act. And so we're also accountable to provide our audited statements and the report to the Director of Non-Profits. But we've got our National Executive Committee that makes the final decisions there, and then we've got in the provinces the executive committees, and then the members that elect them, and so that. And then on the other leg, we've got our directors, our child and youth care workers and social workers employed in our programs, and as well as our admin staff. We are our leadership. We are in 9 provinces. So we are all over South Africa, where we have our, the next slide, Randy, 9 provincial associations covering all provinces. And the provincial associations are there to promote the establishment and the aims and objectives of the association, to ensure that, as I've mentioned earlier on, that you are there in your regions, in your small towns, at your organization, where you need to promote the excellence of this profession. The Provincial Executive Committee are elected by its members, and the provincial chairpersons are members of the NEC. We elect the national chairperson at our biennial general meeting of the association. Our treasurer is co-opted by the National Executive Committee, and then the deputy national chairperson is elected within the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee gives mandate and provide leadership to the professional staff. So the accountability of the professional association The next slide. So we are accountable as a professional association to the members. It's an independent body, and we report at our BGMs to the members, and as I've mentioned, also to the Director of Non-Profit Organizations. And the members gives the mandate to the organization, and the professional staff reports to the National Executive Committee. The source of power for professional association. Next slide. A professional association represents membership of its profession. Okay, so we get that at these meetings, at BGMs, the needs comes from the members, and we as the association must advocate on behalf of members on matters that affect the members or the profession. It is so that a profession must be regulated via its members to ensure that it professes its values and principles and keep the image of the profession in high regard. And that's why I'm saying we influence those ethical standards and what happens. And so if you're in a profession, you must know what you are professing, so that we can work together and make sure that the beneficiaries of the service are benefited from it. So the number of members within a professional association are important. And it's always important that we recruit members, we understand their needs and speak on their behalf. We have about 13,000 child and youth care workers on the books there of council as the last stats we received. And less than 50% are still members of this association. And so we want to plead, please come and take hands. The more we are, the stronger we become. And a professional association must have the capacity to mobilize and able to cover a wide range of its membership and others practicing in its profession. And as I've mentioned, the association works with a mandate in the form of resolutions, the resolutions taken at our conferences and BGMs, so that we can act upon that. Lastly, I just want to briefly speak about our role in terms of a continued professional development. So the purpose of continued professional development has been mentioned. The association must advocate for career progression, recognition, and professional development. It has an interest in the quality of training programs provided by our skills development providers, our TVET colleges, and the universities. We must provide support, expertise to development of training programs, and take responsibility for the development and dissemination of knowledge in forms of lectures, journals, webinars, and any other information dissemination. Yeah. And it is in terms of our mandate to ensure that we progress and take the field and transform what needs to be. That's what continued professional development is there for. And so we advocate for the expansion of settings where the professionals can find employment and contribute in providing services to target the clients. And so we, with the various programs and projects that NEHAWU has, we also, in a way, create employment so the child and youth care workers can get that exposure and experience to have their professional task and to be able to do what is needed. The continued professional development role. The next slide. A professional association is responsible for gathering and providing content for professional development. It continuously creates opportunities aimed at the development of the association and to retain the practitioners within the profession. And as mentioned, we are affiliated to national and international forums that seeks to develop and support the profession, like FITSE International and FITSE Africa, and we take hands and we exchange ideas, and that's why we have our various webinars, and we invite these professors and researchers to come and share new knowledge and new jargon and concepts that we shared during the past year with each other, so that we can have our professions developed and grow as a professional association. Chairperson, with those few ideas and comments, I want to then say thank you for this opportunity to also share about our professional association and also to promote our association that are turning next year we will be 50 years in the field as the NACCW. I thank you.
Thank you to our honorary member and to our NACCW chairperson, Mr. Gallant. Thank you for a very comprehensive presentation on NACCW. In the interest of time, I'll just highlight a few points around the association and its role, especially emphasizing that one of the key things that NACCW does is to promote and improve the profession, as it was indicated by the previous speaker, to promote excellence in the field. Some of the important points is to advocate for the profession, and we do so by promoting fields, by protecting the field, by acting as guardians in the field, by also influencing policy making, and by providing lots of structures for the growth, development, and advocacy for our child and youth care workers, but also enforcing ethical practice amongst the professionals that we work with, and making sure that we're always promoting the rights of the children that we serve. A few of the highlighted points around what the efforts have been over the years with NACCW has been to focus on promoting and impacting on policy, emphasizing that most of it focuses on practice and how we actually provide an ethical practice in the field, and by ensuring that we have quality of service through the trainings that are provided through NACCW as well, so that we ensure that we have quality service extended to the children that we serve. So in summing up, I think that summarizes quite a bit of NACCW association that gives you the is provincially based and nationally based, and is able to meet the needs of all our members, both at the local level and internationally, even promoting the work of child and youth care practitioners out there. So thank you, Mr. Gallant, for that. We're now going to move on. I see one hand up, but I'm going to leave that hand to the section. So we're now going to move on in the agenda, and I'm going to hand over to the two deputy directors at NACCW, so Mr. Donald Ngonyama and Dr. Zeni Tambadu, and I'll hand over to you to go through the question and answer section.
Yes, thank you very much, Fiona, for chairing this session, and thanks to all the presenters. We've got a few comments and questions on the chat box. And Zen, I'm not sure if you would like to go first, but while we are making a decision on that, if there is anyone who wants to ask any question, this is the time to raise your hands.
Donald, and good day to everybody here, and thank you to the presenters for excellent presentations. Just to say that there's a comment here. I think this was at the time linked with trade unions, but you don't have to decrease the exploitation of child and youth care workers. You make it sound as if it's like any other profession that are recognized as well. And I think the point here is that even though we are social service professions together, I think the point is that we have different scopes of practice and we have different intensities of service delivery that child and youth care workers were just trying to clarify needs to be considered. The other point here was that one of the clear directions from the presentation from the trade union was also the value of social service professions joining together, where social workers and childcare workers could come together in unity to advance the rights of social service professions as workers. There will be power in larger numbers of workers working towards better working conditions, including salaries. Obviously, the unique professional differences, I think, as was expressed by the person above, will need to be understood and factored appropriately into this process. And there was a question about why trade unions don't represent the NPO sector, and NEHAWU does represent NPOs such as Save SOS Villages and Save the Children's Fund, just to mention a few, was a response. And others were just struggling with connectivity, and many people have been asking for the presentations, Donald. That's all on the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any hands? Any comments that the members want to make? I see Alfred Harris, and I also saw Mr. Malchus.
Yes, and there's Mpati as well. Petrus, okay. 3 people. Thank you.
Thank you, in that order. Alfred, you may start. We can't hear you if you are speaking.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just typed in the chat box that I couldn't open my microphone. So now it's open. I've got a number of questions I want to ask. I'm going to start out with the labor union. In terms of negotiations in terms of the legislation, how does the trade unions in terms of when they negotiate take the legislation into account? Because there seems to be a disconnect between what the registration regulations is saying to child and care workers, and also what the OSD policy says for child and care workers. Then to this association, I think we need to start to make sure that our professionals are correctly identified. I see many, and this is a part of advocacy, I see many adverts coming out asking for relief childcare workers. So we need to be able to identify what is a relief childcare worker. There's no such position in terms of the legislation. So my question is, when the association through its structures must begin to make people aware that there are 2 categories of child care workers: the auxiliary and the child care worker. And we shouldn't be shy about saying those things. In the social profession, we have auxiliary social workers, they have social workers. And so we need not to be shy about those things and say it's going to create division in the field. There's no such thing as creating a division, and the association must be able to advocate for that and make sure that when people are addressed, they are addressed in terms of their professional standing. And then to the council, I think the council is playing a vital role in terms of ensuring legislation, but ensuring the application of legislation, but they cannot be held accountable as the field. And this is not to do with the association or the labor union, but as the field, we need to be proud of our field. And when we see things that are happening according to legislation, we need to make our voices known, and this is part of advocacy as well. This is my submission. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we will take the 3 questions, and then the responses will come afterwards. The next person who raised a hand, I think it was Mr. Malthus.
Thank you, Donald. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
I got comments and questions for all 3 presentations. But I would first start with Mr. Hitler regarding the council, the register. In terms country where who do the oversight role when it comes to SACSSP regarding regarding certification, because country people are still struggling to get hold of the certificates. And some of them, as far as 2010, they only what currently happened is they only received something from accreditation from NACCW that they've done and they complete and they've been found competent. But in terms of issue, there's certificates from councils from SITA side, it's a long delay, and that is become difficult for people to apply for vacancies because that mostly become a requirement now. You have to need to prove that you have complete at least level 4, because some people are still waiting for level 4, and now we are busy with level 5, and then that's also become a predicament because who pay the oversight role there, because currently we have service providers that come up and they render services. I'm quite experienced with that because currently I'm busy with a provider that asks me to assist as a mentor, as an assessor, and that confusion how they operate and how they facilitate those processes, and that quite confusion how it should be done. And there's no accountability, and the supervisor doesn't assist the facilitator and whoever assists them become a subcontractor to them. They seems to me that the disjunction between the supervisor and SITA, SACSSP, regarding the process. Thank you. When it comes to now, I'm quite concerned. I used to work in the field when it comes to labor and how to operate when it comes to bargaining. They bargain in a blanket. They do have a blanket approach when they do bargaining. Each of us have a new profession with unique challenges and needs. And when it comes to a blanket approach, they don't address the uniqueness of each profession per se. It seems to me they do a blanket approach when it comes to our unique profession, our unique challenges that we encounter as a profession. And I need them to look at that as a whole, as all levels is part of the bargaining chamber. Because the OED hasn't addressed the challenge we have as child care workers. It's still hanging in the air. I left the department still without being answered to the garden there. And the challenge here of that. I'm leaving out the NACCW because they can't play. They played a role of advocate, but they can't assist us. Currently, I'm a mentor in one of SBD sites, and when it comes to stipends, all those things, there's always the challenges, and most of the NPOs and NGOs can't be part of labor because the employers don't allow them to become part of labor, because they said no, labor is destructive when it comes to operation within the workplace. So I don't know how this can be addressed by labor. It's such, especially with NGOs, they don't allow people to become part of unions because you know what happens if they become a part of unions per se. Thank you, Donald and Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we take the last question, and then we will then respond to the questions.
Thank you, Donald, and thank you to our three distinguished guests for well-researched and profound presentations. Firstly, the issue when coming to non-governmental organizations, the issue of SOS Children Villages, you look at the child and youth workers who are working there. They work long hours, they do not rest, they are in residential care. The amount of days that they get and the amount of salaries. So I heard that now how it's organizing there. So can they please look into that, because the child and youth workers are getting exploited in SOS children villages. The other comment is to Mr. Gallant. He said NACCW is the only association for child and youth workers. So I beg to differ. We've got the Solidarity Movement for Social Services Pioneers that is led by President Rabelani Masindi, is also an association for child and youth workers. So we would really appreciate if all the professional association, they rally behind one another to safeguard and mobilize for the well-being of child and youth workers. The other issue that is happening more especially in the NGO sector, we've got whereby social workers are supervising child and youth workers, whereas we've got child and youth workers who are qualified to lead or to supervise other child and youth workers. So we can also get the assistance from the unions and the professional association to make sure that, and the council itself, so that a social worker does not supervise a child and youth care worker. Thank you so much, Mr. Donald.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if there are any other questions, and then let's take this one from Sheila. We'll take up to 5 questions and then respond. Sheila, if you are speaking, you are on mute.
Oh, hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, clear.
Okay, good. Now, I think I want to also just, it was very, very informative. Thank you so very much. I think like the previous person that just spoke now took my question, but I think it's important that I also speak about it. Yes, my concern is this, that and I'm speaking about the two our guest speakers that was talking, the one, the union, and the other one. So my thing is just that how are they gonna win, or yes, how will they stop this? We're still finding social workers supervising child and youth care workers. There's this endless challenge that we're facing in our field, and that is really becoming a big challenge, because like I'm actually echoing just what the previous speaker was saying, because it's really a concern that child and youth care workers are not they are not recognized within their positions as even senior child and youth care workers, because a senior child and youth care worker can then supervise a auxiliary social child and youth care worker. But I'm speaking of that because we'll find it more in the Badisa organizations, child and youth care centers, all the child and youth care centers that falls under Badisa, and also by some of the other child and youth care centers. So I think it's something that really needs to be addressed accurately, so that directors and centers do get the professional board to get the understanding of that child and youth care workers, they equipping themselves, they are participating in so many, even this platforms, webinars that has been created for us, and young child and youth care workers are equipping themselves in order to be heard within the child and youth care field, but still they don't get the they somehow still be undermined into the qualification that they have as a child and youth care worker, or a senior child and youth care worker or a professional child and youth care worker within the field. So yeah, that is just my comment around. But other than that, yes, that is my comment for today's webinar that I participated in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Busisi, you'll be the last one before the next round of questions. If you could be brief, we have now gone over time. We planned to finish at 1 and we are 22 minutes over time now.
Afternoon, colleagues. My question is, I only have 3 questions. The first one is the one, okay, anyway, my name is Ricardo Sogolang Ulu. I'm a child care worker in Kanyan Treatment Center in KZN. The first one is labor, it's on labor union. Since the last time I saw the visibility of labor in our working space, it was 2018 when we had a mass action regarding the issue of the payment of child care workers and also social workers within social development. And after that, we've never seen any member from union coming to our places. And my concern is that since we subscribe to NEHAWU, if you guys don't come and see the workers, and how do you expect workers to, like, I mean, how do you expect workers to say they are concerned if you guys are not around? That's the first one for the union. And also the second one is coming back to NACCW. As I was a student, when I was a student, NACCW used to do conferences where we'll gather together and share knowledge and everything that we need to share. And also another thing, there were journals that they were used to be given to us, as we have highlighted earlier, that there's a 50 rand of membership, so we used to pay that membership. So as an organization, as an association, what you guys doing to come back to the people that are working? Because it seems like the people that are working, we have trained them, you have trained us, because most of us were trained by NACCW, especially the auxiliary workers. You guys don't come back to us. You have trained us, and then we go to working places, and then you don't come back to us for, as you were saying in one of the, as you were saying, one of the things that you guys are for our career development, professional development. So how are we going to be able to develop if you guys are not close to us, away from us? There's no road show that are happening, because there should be more road shows that are coming in, since we do not have any conference anymore because we had the conference before COVID. So now after COVID, everything seems like it has changed. So we more rely on webinars. But the conference was also helping. So I have a feel that you guys as an association, you still need to come back to our people, to child care workers where they are, and then do some road show and just to revive them, because as we currently see, most child workers are leaving the profession. Some are teachers, some are doing something else, but they are leaving our profession. So that's a quite concern for me as a professional who's also passionate about this profession, seeing other people, seeing other workers leaving this profession because I think they have fear that not knowing what is going to happen. But we still remain hopeful, because one day we hope that things will change, especially for our field and within department that we work in, especially in social development, because in terms of our conversation, we are not very happy, but we are still here. And we're hoping that labor union will push the department to a point where they will be able to change the condition of us, because as much as we are working, but the conditions are not conducive. Even the result, most of the things are not okay, but we are working. So we're working with what we have, but we hope that the union will push the union will push the department to give us the better salaries. Maybe if we get better salaries, there will be more motivation, because for now, few people are motivated as others are leaving already. Yeah, I think that's all that's how I wanted to ask. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for the 3 presentation. Hopefully they will reach everyone, and because they seem to be they have more information, and when they reach other workers, I think it will revive them and give them more of a light and a clear picture on what is exactly happening within our profession. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that all the hands that are still on, you have had your input, you ask questions or make comments. So if you could please take down your hands, unless you still want to ask a question. I'm going to allow the presenters to respond to the questions in the same order in which you presented. And I also see that we've got more inputs on the chat box then, but let's take the inputs first, from the responses first from the presenters.
Thanks. Well, thanks, Chairperson. I picked up two issues. One that deals with who's responsible to oversee the health and welfare sector, and that because they are people who have completed their qualification but are struggling to access their certificate from health and welfare sector. The responsibility lies with the skills development provider to put pressure on the health and welfare sector to do what is right by those particular students. However, we had a meeting with the health and welfare sector because the other SDPs did approach us, and we had a meeting with health and welfare sector early this year, and they've denied that there are no any outstanding certificate from their side. So my advice is that I believe colleagues, you do have our email addresses. Please send us a list of the students or the learners who are affected with outstanding certificate, so that we can send evidence to health and welfare sector ourselves, so that we put pressure on them to release those particular certificates. But primarily it's the responsibility of the SDP, but we are involved on this particular matter because it does affect the total number of child and worker registered per year. The longer a registration qualification certificate is not being issued, that person cannot be able to register. So we are intervening on that one. Please share the information so that we can send same to health and welfare system. The issue of social workers supervising child and youth care workers, this is an ethical issue. And again, colleagues, I would really request that we become practical on these issues. I have noticed that we convene a lot of webinars, we raise issues, then when we leave, nothing happens. So again, colleagues, advise us which organization is allowing social workers to supervise child and youth care workers, so that we can write an official letter to them and advise them. A social worker must be supervised by a registered social worker. A child and youth care worker must be supervised by a registered child and youth care worker. It's non-negotiable. It's an ethical matter that we just need to be pragmatic on it. Send us information. We will write a letter to that particular organization. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Registrar. Thank you very much. Can we get a response from Mr. Masilela?
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngonyama, and we appreciate the reflection from our colleagues. Yeah, well, maybe I must start with the issue of valuing of other professionals over the other. I think that is the struggle that we were reflecting about, to say we need to advance our class consciousness of knowing that all of us, we are workers. And we know for a fact that there are still those who are having this false consciousness of ill-treating others who are less, who are supervising them. But the other thing that I think it's important to also reflect on is the issue of bargaining be done. Oh, okay. Maybe let me start with the registration of professionals with the statutory bodies. I'm not sure whether Comrade Harris is referring to the issue of the employers to pay for the registration with the council, because where we have managed to win or advance on is those employers who are under Public Health, Social Development, Sectoral Bargaining Council, because those ones we have won that the employers are paying on behalf of these members, although the money they deduct it to avoid this thing of saying that the professional is now deregistered and so forth and so on. But we're not yet advanced into other employers, which is something that we might also need to consider. The other issue of workers bargaining using a blanket approach. There are issues that we separate, but obviously it will depend in which sector are you and which part of the advancement we have advanced as NEHAWU. Possibly there are issues that we can call it for collective bargaining, but also there are issues that we can call it them local bargaining, because the dynamics are not the same. So those issues that needs centralized bargaining, we bargain them using that blanket approach. But for local bargaining, we look at issue per issue and the balance of issues in that particular sector or that particular workplace. The other issue which I think it's important is in relation to the long serving, the long working hours for the mentioned NPOs, including SOS and other residential facilities. Yeah, it's something that indeed, as trade union, we have to fight with it constantly, because I know for a fact that at SOS currently, the union is fighting section 189 there, wherein the employer want to retrench employees, but the national office of the union is dealing with that. But of course, I agree, there are exploitation there, but wherever we intercept them as a union, we advance them together with these workers. The issue of visibility, yeah, is something that we have to look at it. But the other thing that I must indicate to this meeting is that trade union, by its nature, its strength and weakness is determined by its members. If members of a trade union in a workplace are weak, then that union will be weak. If members of trade unions are strong in the workplace, that workplace will be strong. That is why you'll find a situation where in the workplaces, what we call branches ourselves as a union, are not having the similar strength. It's determined by the attitude and the posture of that membership that they are found in that particular workplace or in that particular branch. So that is why we said all of us, we must play a role, because the union, particularly now in its nature, is participatory. That is why we are saying it's a worker control. Because if the union becomes weak where you are working, you must be worried as a member, because it reflects who you are. So, but it's something that I think it's important that we must look at it in terms of the union coming closer to where members are. But also members, if they see that their union is not visible, they must get the nearest, where the nearest shop stewards are. I think that is important. Then the other issue is the issue of career development in this particular sector, which we know and acknowledge it. That is why, as now, we are constantly fighting that the OSD has never been implemented properly, particularly in child youth and youth care workers. It's so unfortunate, because now we're advancing, because the lifespan of OSD have come to end. And when it was introduced, we made it to believe or to think that it will be better in terms of cushioning the better life of employees, but it has been proven to be something contrary as compared to other professions. So it's something that the union will be busy galvanizing as to say which approach should we take. We need the reviewal of OSD, or we want something else in total without considering the OSD. The other issue is the issue of the union, because I saw on this chat box that the union is only representing members with regard to salary increase, but when it comes to cases, the employers are refusing for a representation. Then it's something that maybe we must work over the issue of the recognition agreement that we entered into with this employer. Because if the recognition agreement is saying you will be represented only by a fellow colleague or a local shop steward, it then reduces the rights of workers to be represented sufficiently and properly, because even external shop stewards must be allowed to come and represent members. I think it's something that we must work over, but also to capacitate the shop stewards at a local level to have that capacity to represent members, but equally fighting for the recognition agreement to allow even external shop stewards or the union official to come to represent those members. Lastly, the issue surrounding the issue of some employers refusing their members, the workers, to join unions. That one, colleagues, is a clear violation of the constitution of the country, because the constitution of the country is saying everyone have a right to join organization of his choice, organizations that are recognized. That's the first part. But secondly, the Labor Relations Act also, it's giving a directive to employers to allow members to join unions. So such matters, there are isolated cases that we have. We take those employers to CCMA for refusal to bargain, or for refusal to have a recognition agreement with those particular employers. So it's something that possibly it's very much important for us to get the specifics so that we'll be able to challenge and take those employers head on. So those are a quick reflection that we got that warranted our reflection. But I see that on chat box, the questions are keep on popping up. But when you were presenting them, this is what we only captured, Chairperson. I will post there, not unless there will be a follow-up question or something that we omitted that you presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masilela. I see there is one hand that is up. We are going to take that hand, and then I will hand over to Zeni to indicate if there is anything from the chat box that's worth mentioning before we come to a closure.
Donald, I just want to respond to two issues.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Yes. Sorry. Okay, please go.
Thank you. It has been mentioned the issue of the identity of our profession, and it is so true that it has to do sometimes also, especially in our NPOs, with money, that they would talk about a relief child and youth care worker or assistant child and youth care worker to bring them in to relieve the other. But and then I saw there in the chat box, especially the SOS, where they still maybe speak about house mothers. There are some child and youth care centers also speaks about caregivers and house fathers. So all those must be set aside. We've got regulations now, and we talk only about a child and youth care worker. And the child and youth care worker practice on auxiliary level or on professional level. But I just want to say, I have been asked sometimes by managers, can't we appoint a social auxiliary worker because they are more available, you know, and the post is for a child and youth care worker? We want to say social service professionals complement each other. People must stay in their lane. We can't allow substitution of professionals. So there can't be social workers, auxiliary social workers, nurses, teachers, community development workers or leaders being taken up to say, come and be and do this work for us. We can't find a child and youth care worker because we are specific in terms of, and it was a long struggle to get to this point. The regulations was only signed by the minister in 2014, and we're still in that process to get these things, our house in order. So please, child and youth care workers, you must be also the advocate for your profession. We must be like good disciples to say what is the profession there for and articulate what we do. So as the NACCW, the other question about our advocacy role is in terms of stipends. There's this issue of dry season, especially those that work in the projects after we've transferred the Isibindi model to the department. They've given it a new name, etc. But we as the NACCW are in discussions, you know. We wrote these letters to the department's Director General. We are now trying to meet with the new minister. And so it's not always easy as associations to get doors open, but we get our foot in the door and we are there. I think the request that I heard someone ask about our conferences and workshops and road shows, we used to, as the association, have our leadership development seminars on national level as well as provincial, where we did invite the provincial departments also and some NGO managers and directors to come there, and then we had this kind of interaction. But this had to do also with funding, you know, to fund these type of things, and that is what we take note that we need to look at that. We are, as the NEC, in discussion about that. But it's also as I said earlier, there in your provincial PEC, there you must, you know, you organize your workshops, your mini conferences, your camps. The development must start on ground level. And from the national side, the national office will come and provide that support to bring speakers and give you stationery, whatever needs to be done. Because if you in this association, you're a full member, and we mustn't say you talking about us and them, kind of when you're a member of the NACCW and a child and youth care worker or whatever type of membership you do have, we must talk together and brainstorm and advocate, because the NEC gets the mandate from the members and it flows up. So I just wanted to mention that we should look at it. But we want to say we will be turning 50 years in 2025, and we are busy planning the big conference, hopefully there in KwaZulu-Natal. Thank you, Donald.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. I think you covered all the questions that were directed to NACCW. There is a hand from Amanda. Amanda, please unmute and
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You may proceed.
Okay. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. My question is directed to NEHAWU. I'm just inquiring about capacity building for employers, especially NPOs, because history testifies that NPOs were charity organizations, which then transitioned to being regulated through the NPO Act. So you will find that child and youth care workers were former children's home or informal shelters that were formed by people who felt a need from the community. Now, my question is, do unions capacitate employers in terms of recognition agreements, transitioning to compliance with Basic Conditions of Employment Act, Labor Relations Act, and trying to strike a balance between what is expected and the resources that are available to meet a compliance with such regulations. For example, the national minimum wage, which does not sometimes feasible or possible to meet given the stipend or subsidy that NPOs receive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Masilela, do you want to respond to that briefly?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, no, I think what can be done by NPOs who need capacity building. I know, although I didn't check where I'm seated now, I know for a fact that CCMA does have programs for capacitating unions, which I think also the employers can also utilize that facility. And second, lastly, maybe also even the Department of Labor. If the NPO can write to Department of Labor requesting to be capacitated in the following areas, they can also capacitate them in a better way. That's what I can say in a short space of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Zeni to just indicate if there is anything on the chat box that's worth mentioning.
Thank you, Donald. Patricia raises a point about the trade union rep regarding childcare workers who would refuse staff entry to facility during staff and leave children unattended. I think that question was answered later by Fiona when she says that basically, and to Muriel as well, that the issue of child and youth care workers in child care centers cannot strike, and they have to be on duty because these are children that are statutorily placed in care and under the protection of the child and youth care workers and the team. So that was just one. The other questions were about the supervision, many about supervision of social workers, supervising child and youth care workers, Fiona's point about being legally classified as essential services as child and youth care workers, so strikes are not allowed. The issue of house mother as well, that has already been discussed. Child and youth care workers must have their correct identity representing who they are. The point was made by Muriel requesting that NACCW negotiate with universities for training and development of the profession. And NACCW is busy with these negotiations across universities in the country, and Fiona has responded. They say that council must look into the matter as members did further studies and are deregistered before because the HW says they have not completed yet. They are not submitting the certificates, and that issue remains a burning issue on the chat box as well. There's a question about particularly, I think, SOS villages and about working long hours with 4 days off, and that system was being raised. Also, a response from somewhere encouraging people to complete the council template for qualification. Still, again, the professional status. Can the professional body explain why the childcare worker post at directorate level is required as an administrator? I kindly request that the position be listed appropriate for career path services. That's an interesting point, and I had earlier made a comment which I just like to read out, that adverts need to read as adverts for childcare workers in professional or auxiliary levels. But for a position of relief worker or project manager or principal or administrator even, or CFO or CEO, if that is what is required. So you need to say we want a child and youth care work profession in the position of principal of a children's home. So you can call someone a principal, but you need to be sure that their qualification is clarified clearly. And I think that was a point that Alfred made. I'm not too sure if that response answers it, and it seems to have come up a second time. I'm just trying to see, is there anything completed? Yes, and the issue of the recognition agreement, which is something that NEHAWU must challenge. How do you get assistance regarding council numbers? Childcare workers have not yet received. Solidarity Movement for Social Service Pioneers is another child and youth care professional association. And there's a response here that it is a movement for social service professions, not a professional association for childcare workers. And that was guided by the presentation by the chairperson on what is and constitutes a professional association. Portia says, can the council consider career pathing for social auxiliary workers and upward mobility, please? And that's from a social auxiliary worker. Those are all, Donald, from our end here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that most of the questions have been responded to. And in the interest of time, I would request that we proceed. I'm now going to hand over to Fiona, who is going to introduce the next speaker. But before I do that, I want to say to NEHAWU, the trade union, that I think what is coming out clearly here is that within the child and youth care sector, there is a need for the union to come closer because there is clear support and guidance that is required, both by employers and by the practitioners themselves. So if you could take that as one of the things that you need to follow through after this webinar. Thank you. I'm handing over to Fiona.
Thank you to Donald and to Zeni for summing up all that questions and queries that have come through. I'm sure Donald and Zeni will scrutinize all the queries that have come through out of this meeting and be able to put an action plan towards some of these requests that have come through. We're now going to move on to almost closing at the end. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Josie Pina, who's the Northern Cape Provincial Chair. In the interest of time, just to do a quick vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josie Pinar. I'm here from Kimberley in the Northern Cape. I'm here to do the vote of thanks. I just want to make sure, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to do the vote of thanks on behalf of the NACCW. To begin with, I want to say thank you to the NEC for organizing this meeting, this webinar. It was good, it was informative, and As members of the NACCW, we really appreciate the efforts that you do, to educate us, to guide us, and to help us as child and youth care workers. I also want to say thank you very much to all the ones that joined the meeting, child and youth care workers all over South Africa, international. Thank you very much. You could have spent your time on something else, but you choose to join and to sit in during this webinar. Thank you very much. Fiona is the chairperson of this meeting. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for your input. Thank you that you guide us during the session. I want to say thank you very much to Mr. Donald that give his input as he introduced the speakers, and to the speakers self from the SACSSP. Thank you very much, Mr. Sekhitla. Thank you very much, Mr. Masilela. Thank you very much for your input. The information that you shared with us was very informative, and that we really appreciate it for your time and the effort that you put in, to come and share it with us. Thank you very much, our chair, Mr. Elwin Gallant. Thank you very much for your input. Also is our national chairperson. We highly appreciate it. Thank you very much, ma'am Zeni. And thank you very much to all of you that asked all the relevant questions that some of us didn't ask, but that we all need to ask. Thank you very much for your input. The session was good, it was informative, and we appreciate everyone that was part of the session. Thank you, Mr. Donald. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you, Josie, for that vote of thanks. Appreciated in every way. Just in closing, to acknowledge the fact that, what's come out very clearly is that we're not an isolated sector. We work in unity with all the other professionals in the field, and that there's a lot of relevant stakeholders that have to come together to make sure that we all advance in the profession. We advance for the sake of the recipients that we serve. And with that said, a very special thank you to NACCW for putting this all together, facilitating a networking session for us to hear from other stakeholders exactly how all their mandates fit together. We have clearly had presentations show us where the commonalities are and where the differences are between the different structures, and how we can work with all of these structures to better the services that we offer. And they're all there to support work that we do for our children. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to our national, international guests that have come through, and visitors and presenters. Thank you to Council, and thank you to NEHAWU for being with us through the whole session and for answering the questions as best you can. And I'm sure we were going to continue with the conversations and continue with maybe even more webinars to take us to another step of progressing in the field. So once again, thank you to everybody for your time and your effort here, to all the facilitators who put this program together and coordinated it, and to everyone who stayed on right till the end of the program. Thank you for being part of this. May you use this opportunity to, when we send the presentations to you, to share their presentations with others in the field, so that you can have more debates, have more discussion around all of the information that you're gaining from these presentations, so that we can keep the conversation going for the betterment and for the advancement of everything we do. So with that said, thank you again, and I would like to close this meeting, and thank you, Donald.
Thank you. We seem to have lost Fiona due to connectivity challenges there, but this webinar is now has come to an end, and thanks very much to everyone. Goodbye. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.